tackling tacos, and this is going to be our first ever full-blown cooking video. We're going to walk you through from start to finish, and today's cook is pulled pork tacos. It's basically the same thing as like just a pulled pork sandwich, but we're tackling tacos, we're not tackling sandwiches. A couple quick tips. Number one, you can get a pork shoulder, which is also called a pork butt, anywhere. This is from Walmart. Maybe you could get a better one at a butcher shop, but that's kind of the cool thing about barbecue is you're slow cooking something so long that you're taking a piece of meat that maybe isn't the greatest quality and you're making it good, like a beef brisket, which is sort of like the grail of barbecuing. That's from like the chest sort of piece of a cow. If you just cook that normal, it would be like tough rubber. But when you cook it slow, it's awesome. So I wouldn't be too focused on like how quality your pork butt is. And then the second tip, and I'm telling you, I know this because I've done it myself, do not get a boneless pork butt, a shoulder. You want to make sure, you can see on this one, I don't know if you can hear that on camera, but that is the pork shoulder. You gotta have that in there. That's a big deal. And that's actually something, when the cook is all done in a few hours, many hours from now, that's a way to tell that the pork is cooked properly because it just slides right out. If it's not cooked enough, then it kind of stays firm. So you definitely want that pork shoulder. First thing, get your pork butt, your shoulder roast, and every one is going to come with what's called a fat cap right here. Another quick tip, make sure you wash your hands before you start. Honestly, that's gross. And then after you're done, make sure you wash your hands. If you use a rag, don't use that rag for something else. You don't want like piggy juice on like your kids or something. So you have the pork shoulder here, and everyone's gonna have a fat cap. You want a good amount of fat on there, but you don't want too much. So all you're gonna do real simply is just take your sharp knife and kind of sideways slice through. If you get a piece of your finger, let it sit. After it barbecues, it'll get right in there. It'll add a little flavor. So I don't know how to quantify this. I don't know if you would say I want a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch or a millimeter. I mean, this isn't Europe. We don't use the metric system. But you want just a thin little layer across the top. If you go too deep and you have some meat show through, it's no big whoop. So like this, you just kind of come in there sideways with your sharp knife and just start taking off little bits at a time. And you want to take off, the smaller pieces at a time, because you can always take more off. You can't add more back on. So pieces like this, and then that goes right in the mouth, right. So just like that, little pieces. And again, if you go too deep, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but you do want that fat on there. It's gonna render in and slow cook into the meat, giving a lot of flavor and a really nice texture. All right, so I guess we're pretty much done. Maybe we can have cameraman Lola get a little close on here so you can see pretty much every bit of that fat cap should have sort of a knife mark on it like you went through it. When you pick your pork shoulder at Walmart or at wherever you get them from, I like to get one with a pretty significant fat cap on it. I don't like it where there's gaps in it, so that way I can be a little more in control of how much I trim off and whatever. So now you go to the seasoning part. Obviously there's a absolute sea of seasonings. I did that on accident. That was so funny. There's a ton of seasonings you can do. Some people are old school and stick to salt and pepper. Some people lie and say they do salt and pepper when they do a lot more. Like a lot of barbecue joints are like, we're salt and pepper only, and it turns out that's not true, but that's a whole different thing. So what I like is a combination of salt and a couple pre-made seasonings you can just buy at the store. I think we got this at Shields. I think I got this at Walmart, and I got this clearly at Hy-Vee. So this is literally just salt. This butcher one is real simple. It's like salt, garlic, some peppers, some cane sugar, some paprika, and then this one's really tasty. This Kansas City Championship. It's hickory smoke, onion, garlic, and some peppers. You want a decent amount of pepper on the seasoning. That's going to help with your bark, that kind of crunchy outside bit that you definitely want. So the seasonings, what I like to do is kind of get that thing in the middle. Also, the cut off fat, quick little side note, you can actually keep that. You can put it in like a, a small tin, and during your cook you can keep that in there and it kind of renders down, and some people will use that to almost like baste over the top. I've done that before. I don't know if it's worth the effort, but you can just chuck it too. When I season the pork shoulder, I like to keep in mind the fact that I'm going to cook it fat side up. So I start the opposite. I season the bottom and the sides first, and then I flip it around and I do the fat cap. There's not much debate. People say there is about cooking a pork shoulder fat side up. Almost everybody I know, everybody I've watched, everybody who's pretty dang good at barbecue cooks fat side up. And another small thing before we get too far into it, cooking a pulled pork, a pork shoulder, a pork butt is the simplest thing in the world. It is so easy. We'll get into that in a second, but I mean, it is just so simple. So I'll flip her over, grab my seasonings, start with the salt. Woo, slippery. And then what I like to do is I try to season from a little bit above it so I get pretty even. And you can, I mean, you can let it rip. I mean, you can put quite a bit on there because it's going to cook for so long. I mean, you can really put it on there pretty good. Then we'll go to this one. Again, this is Kinder's seasoning from Walmart. This is just a good blend, and on top of the blend, it adds a lot of really nice color. Because you always eat with your eyes first, you know? And an important part about the seasoning too, after you're done with the seasoning, you want to let it sit for a second. You don't want to just take it straight from seasoning straight to the smoker. So what I like to do is put all my seasoning on, turn on the smoker to the temperature that I want. I use a pellet grill, whatever you're using. Get it to the temperature you want. In this case, we're gonna do 275, and then after it's heated up, then I'll throw her on there. But you don't want to go straight from seasoning to the grill. You want to let it sit for a quick sec. Now the juice, this is my jam. And again, be liberal with it. Flip her on over. Every once in a while, you know, just to make sure it's still there, give it a good spank. You gotta spank your pork, that's what I say. It's a Tackle and Taco shirt waiting to be made. Spank your pork. Probably edit that out. It sounds inappropriate and I didn't mean it that way. And again, liberal. You might be thinking to yourself, good God, you're going to have a heart attack. Maybe, but it's going to taste good. Like to season again, a little high so I can get a pretty even distribution of all the spices and stuff. Some people will actually take it and kind of plop it on the sides. I don't know if that makes a difference because you're pulling it apart at the end anyway. Last one. Oh, that's that good stuff. Boy, if this was smell-o-vision, you'd be, whoo, smell good. That's it. Wipe your hands off. Again, don't let your children use this for, I don't know what, afterwards. And then, yeah, I'll show you what we do with the grill. All right, so what you're gonna do when you move out to the grill is, for us, we have a Traeger. We got it used on Facebook Marketplace for a couple $100. So if you don't have a good pellet grill, there's an option for you. We come over here, we turn it to on. First off, we click it to smoke, let that go for a little while. Once it gets up over 100-something degrees, I can't remember how long it takes on a Traeger, then I'm literally just click, 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 275. Look at me now. 275. That's it. You can overcomplicate anything. Finances, your marriage, fishing, tacos. Do not overcomplicate pulled pork. In this case, pulled pork tacos. 275. Some people want to cover it. Some people want to wrap it in aluminum foil. Some people want to take it out on a date. 275. Put it in the Traeger and let it sit. I'll spray it down with like a combination that I made of Worcestershire sire sauce. That was weird. Soy sauce, pickle juice, and a little bit of water. And I'll do that every hour or so just so it doesn't dry out too much. But then it's just 275 all the way to like 200, 205 degrees. You want it to get to that temperature so the fat renders, so it gets really, really tender. So when you go to pull the pork, it just falls apart. 275, leave it alone. That's it. All right, so you can see right here that the seasoning doesn't look as dry. What that means is it's sort of like absorbing into some of the moisture of the pork. And now we're gonna go ahead and throw her on the grill. Like I said, I always do mine fat cap side up. And again, I know I'm beating a dead horse. 275, just leave it alone. We pick her up, put her smack in the middle of the smoker of the grill. Farewell, friend. And then depending on your cook, it can take 5 hours, it can take 8 hours. It depends on the size of the cut of meat that you have. And then a huge deal, which we'll get to in a little bit, is after it comes along, the fat cap will split. You'll start to really get that smell. I mean, it is awesome. After it's done, after it's hit temperature, that's when you really want to wrap it tight with aluminum foil, a towel, or whatever, and then stick it in either an unturned on oven just to airtight it, or like we have a grizzly cooler that we use, plop it in there, but you gotta let it rest. I always like joke around, like I'll wrap it up and I'll take a picture like, good night little pork butt, go to rest now, but that's because I'm super weird. But you want to let it rest, the longer the better. You're not gonna lose a bunch of temp, it's not gonna get cold. You can let it rest, I would say, for at least an hour, but you can go longer than that even, and it gets a little more tender. So we're a couple hours, few hours, 4 hours in to the cook, and we're going to check on it. We've been spraying it every hour or so, and if you look at it now, that's what I was talking about earlier, the fat cap cracks a little bit. That's the point. If you're the type of guy who wants to make it more complicated, this is the point where you would start wrapping it or putting it in a tin or a whatever. I don't do it. I just be like, you know what I'm saying? And the way that you know, obviously, your IT, your internal temperature, is just get you one of these. I got this on Amazon for like $8. I've had it for years. It stays like that. When you open it, the temperature comes on. Get your reading. And again, we wanna rock this baby to about 200, 205. So right now we're at 158, which might seem close to 200, but in terms of only cooking at 275 degrees, she's got a while to go still. Do I look natural? Anyway, okay. You may notice I changed shirts. I just felt like the other one didn't really bring out my eyes or my thighs well enough. I was planting those trees back there. Anyway, we're at that moment, dude. Like, it's ready to come off of the smoker. It's been on there for, what, Lola, 8 hours? Something like that. It's been a while. So let's look at it together. The reveal. This is how you want your pulled pork to be. And again, 275 all day, no tin, no wrap, no nothing. But yeah, check her out. Oh, daddy. So what we do now is we take the pork shoulder off of the smoker and we let it rest by wrapping it in tin foil. Then we'll put it in our grizzly cooler for as long as I can handle it. I want to eat right now, but I'll probably give it like an hour and then we'll start pulling it apart. I put my smoker into shutdown mode, and the way that I get it off of the smoker, because it can be a little tricky, is I use the 2 spatula method, which I just invented right now. I just made it up. I actually have little like rubber gloves, like those black gloves, so I'd look like a pro barbecuer, but I don't know where they are, so I'm not that pro. I checked my temp just a little bit ago. It was at like 199, which is close enough. I don't want to wait anymore. And when I put the probe, here's another tip for you. You'll know it's done when it gets to temperature, and when you put your little temp probe in there, when it's just like, when it's just pudding, like when it's just mushy like a tushy, like, you know that thing is ready to go. So and we do this, kind of get her on both of them. Whoops-a-daisy, that's not supposed to happen, but it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Another pro tip, if you're a gangster, if you're a smart person, you will go to Dollar General and get you the extra wide aluminum foil. It's cheap, it's Dollar General, but the extra wide makes it way easier to wrap. And when I say wrap, like, you really want to wrap this thing. So I like to wrap it like this, like one good layer there, like as tight as I can get it, and then I'll take another one, because you want to just keep all that moisture, all that air inside. You don't want to let it out there. I'll take a whole nother thing, and again, the extra wide, it really does, it does work better. It's easier for wrapping. When I used to live in a little town in Illinois, that was like the only thing we had around was a Dollar General, and that's how I found this aluminum foil. So go over the top, the opposite what we just did. Wrap it up tight again, like so. Real nice and tight like that. And then I'm just gonna drop this whole thing in our grizzly cooler. I'm gonna let it rest for like at least an hour. If you can let it rest longer, like there's been times where I would let my pork shoulder rest and I would go fish or I would go hunt for like 3 hours, 4 hours even. It doesn't affect it. What happens in that rest process is when you take it off of the smoker, everything wants to kind of tighten up, and when you let it rest, it kind of eases it back, so it really adds to that tenderness. So give it like an hour, come back, and we're gonna make us some pulled pork tacos. All right, so here they are, the tacos, pulled pork tacos. It's really like, we kind of topped it the same way you would do with like a pulled pork Sammy. Spicy coleslaw, which you just use like the tricolor coleslaw mix from the salad section, and then ranch with hot sauce mixed in, nothing too complicated. We added avocado just to make it a little more taco-y, cilantro, jalapeno, and then I put a little bit of ranch on it, which I know is like the most not authentic barbecue or taco thing ever. And yeah, let's try it. Gus is excited too. Gotta have that first bite. I feel weird taking a bite on camera, but that's like the cooking show thing. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Dude, that's so good. So there you go. Pulled pork tacos, easy to make, incredible taste. Add whatever you want to it. Positivity's worth the effort. Very good. Yeah.